If you're an investor over 50, you've probably asked this exact question. Should I be taking less risk now? And most people assume the answer is, yeah, you should because you're old. But the real answer is much more nuanced than that. And getting it wrong can quietly cost you either growth or peace of mind. Hi, I'm Scott Mullet. Oh, no. You don't need to do that. Welcome to the Wise Lane, where we focus on topics related to money, mindset, and modern living for the good folks over 50. Yeah, over 50. Of course, youth, you're welcome too. Yeah, youth. Now you can see I'm trying a new visual backdrop today. Let me know, is this better? Is this worse? I mean, who really cares? I guess I'm still here. You're stuck with me. And we are in the middle of our series on investing over the age of 50. In our first investing episode, which was Wise Lane number 17, we talked about the mindset shift that needs to happen or should happen after you turn 50. In the next one, episode 18, we covered some common mistakes that people make when they overreact to that mindset shift. And today, we're answering the question underneath all of it. How much risk should we actually take after 50 in our investment portfolio? And here's a hint. It most definitely is not based on age alone. It's based on something much more nuanced. In fact, I'd argue basing risk purely on your age is kind of, a blunt tool. Now, there's a common rule we've heard. Now, when constructing investment portfolios, we should subtract your age from 100, and that should be the allocation to your stocks or more risky, volatile investments. The rest would go in bonds, cash, or maybe other less volatile assets. So if you're 65, 100 minus 65 is 35. So 35% of your portfolio should be in higher volatility assets such as stocks. No more than that. It's simple, it's neat, and it's very incomplete. How about my rhyme? Yeah, let's hear it for rhymes. Yeah, go rhymes. Because age alone does not determine risk. A healthy 55-year-old with strong savings and 30 years of life ahead, hopefully, is very different from someone retiring tomorrow with limited flexibility, limited assets, or limited income options. Risk is not about your birth date. It's about your life situation. So let's recap some of what we've discussed in the previous 2 episodes regarding investment risk. Now, many people think the biggest investing risk is market volatility. But after 50, I see investing becoming really a balance between 3 things. I guess I need a third hand to do all of that. But they are growth, protection, and income. So if you have too much growth, it often means taking on more risk, which can create anxiety from usually the volatility that comes with that added risk. Now, too much safety, it might make us feel nice and calm, but it creates inflation and purchasing power risk because the cost of living increases maybe more than the value of your investments. Not good. And too much chasing that income, it may often lead to bad decisions as we take on another kind of risk, default risk, or really the risk of not getting our money back at all from our investment. There's also the fact that losses hurt more when withdrawals begin or as we approach when those withdrawals will need to start beginning. Retirement is an example of that. This risk is called sequence risk. And these are just 4 of the investing risks that need to be considered. So deciding how much risk to take is about each of us balancing the risks that matter most. And here I'm actually going to go opposite of what they said in The Godfather. Watch.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.
Yeah, because in this case, our case, it's not business. It is personal. In making risk decisions, here are three key factors we should all consider. The first is time horizon. And I'm not talking about, hey, here's my retirement date. Uh-uh. I'm talking about life expectancy. At 55, you may have 20 or 30 years ahead of you. At 65, maybe you've got 10 to 20 years ahead of you. Either way, that is not short term money. Longevity increases the need for some growth in your portfolio. Number two is income flexibility, because our income situations can vary dramatically from person to person. Some of us may have pensions, others have traditional IRAs, or others Roth IRAs, 401k plans. Maybe people hold annuities. Some are collecting Social Security. Some may still have W-2 income on a part-time or maybe full-time basis. Do you have other income sources? Maybe I own a traditional rental property, or maybe I own a vacation rental like an Airbnb or a Vrbo. Do I have the ability to reduce spending if needed? All that being said, the point I'm trying to make is the more flexibility you have, the more risk capacity you may have, which impacts your risk equation. Now, the third is emotional tolerance. And this is where most people underestimate themselves, or more likely, overestimate themselves. Because if a 20% drop keeps you awake at night, definitely steer clear of a portfolio that's too aggressive. And if volatility doesn't change your behavior, you may have more room for growth, and you don't want to be overly cautious. Maybe you're driven by FOMO, or the fear of missing out in the market. The right portfolio isn't just mathematically correct. It needs to be behaviorally sustainable for each of us. And in the last episode, I discussed the acronym SWAN, or sleep well at night. For lots of us, SWAN, sleep well at night, is the ultimate goal. But each of us has a different trigger level that will give us insomnia, so we can't sleep, right? So let me frame it this way. Instead of asking, how much risk should someone my age take? Ask, well, how much stability do I need in the next 5 years, the next 10 years? How much growth do I need over the next 20 years? What significant milestones are ahead in my life? What, where, and how much resources do I have? The mental separation of all of these things changes everything. Short-term money should be stable, but long-term money, yeah, that can tolerate a little bit of movement. When you separate timelines, risk becomes more manageable. So here are some characteristics of what I'd call smart investing over 50. For one, don't chase performance, and don't abandon growth entirely. But do build portfolios that you can not only live with, but also where you sleep well at night. Because the greatest threat to retirement security, really, it isn't volatility, it's our own investment reactions. So a portfolio that we can stick with is more powerful than one that just happens to look really good on paper. Now, I was in the investment business for 25 years. And believe me, risk concepts, portfolio allocations, they continue to be constructed, destructed, reconstructed, proposed, reproposed by finance, investing professionals all over the world. Now, for example, I was reading just last month in the Wall Street Journal about a Yale University finance professor named James Choi, who has developed a new formula that recommends an asset allocation based in part on your age, your income, your savings, and risk tolerance. Those are all some of the things that we've been discussing on this episode of The Wise Lane. But I bet his research paper probably had no Godfather film clips included in it, right? So I hope you found this Wise Lane discussion on investing to be very helpful. Now, in the next episode, we're going to continue to focus on investing after 50, but we're going to talk about something that is kind of counterintuitive. Why simpler investment strategies can be better than complex ones after you turn 50 or as you get older in age. Wrapping up now and tying with a bow. If you're over 50, risk isn't something to eliminate, it's something to understand. And the right amount isn't determined by just your age, it's determined by your life. Please like and subscribe to keep the Wise Lane going. I'm Scott Mullet, and really, thanks for watching.